ties are severed deep. So my worn out heart falls, echoing in the
All
dark.
right. Well, thank you again for joining today and for your for giving me a chance in lessons. And I feel like I'm on the winning end of the bargain here because I got to meet you and and learn a little bit about you. So, who we have here today? We have Trace Ellis. Trace is a singer-songwriter who lives north of Albany. And what I did was I wanted to talk to Trace a little bit about sort of the inspirations, a little bit of his history, the songwriting, and maybe to tell a little bit about your learning process. Because as you know, we have a lot of adult students, children and adults, but mostly adults from midlife on, especially moving toward retirement, who might be on the fence about trying to learn something new. And when you approached me, you said you've been playing for years, but you sort of had a period where you felt maybe you had plateaued a little bit
Yeah.
in that. And so, yeah, so why don't you start off with telling us a little bit about yourself and your history with the instrument to start off with?
Well, okay. I actually started writing music on the piano when I was about 8 years old, and I was somewhat of a virtuoso in terms of I could play by ear, and I would write these. I used to call them fake Beethoven,
Uh-huh.
and my parents would pull me out, if they had a cocktail party or something, and they would want me to play. So I would just make up this stuff, and everybody was like, "Oh wow!" But it was the late '60s, early '70s, and everybody was playing the guitar.
Mm-hmm.
So when I was about 13, I wanted a guitar really badly, and my mom got me this little classical guitar. It wasn't real expensive or anything, but I just started fooling around, and I never took lessons. I just sort of taught myself. I bought a couple chord books, and but I started writing on the guitar almost immediately,
Mm-hmm.
and I've been doing that ever since, off and on for many years.
That's awesome. And so you approached it from a songwriting perspective, like early on. Then it sounds like on the piano you were just kind of faking some of
Yeah,
the maestros, some of the masters.
yeah.
I'm sure your family was found it amusing as well as kind of cool.
Yeah, yeah. Well, my parents are both artists. They were professional artists. So they had a lot of artistic friends, and I grew up in that kind of artistic atmosphere where anything creative was highly valued. So, I think that's why I started out songwriting so early. Almost immediately when I picked up the guitar, I would just
Mhm.
doodle around and try and make things sound good.
So what do you think? What would you tell people who feel afraid to do that? Because so many times, I run into a student, working for my company, 518 Guitar, working for the studio that I teach at. Um, and it's like without a book, they don't know what to do. Sort of
Yeah,
like afraid, like I guess the anxiety piece of it to the creating and saying, oh, no, no, I could never write a song. Well, here you have Trace, who started writing music just as soon as you could sit at the piano and put your hands on it. Like what might you tell them?
well, I would say, to try and get it's ego in reverse. It's we want
Mm.
to be the best and we think we're the worst. So,
Hmm.
somehow we got to get that out of the way, and just try and trust the process that you that we all have this musical ability in us, and we block it with our thoughts of insecurity, or oh, we're too old, or we're too this, or my hands are too thick, or
Hmm.
whatever messages we give ourselves. Try and get rid of those and just let the instruments speak, and you know and try and get rid of that fear, that self-imposed fear that we all have.
Sure, sure. Yeah, it's ego in reverse, like you said. That's a really good way to put it. And then you see people who are all the way the other way, right? Who are ego in full force.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
There's, I guess,
So it's,
life, we live life in the medium there between the two. I suppose we should.
I think so.
What about the times in your life when not just guitar, but music, right? Like, so, there's times when the creativity is like this,
Hmm.
and then it's like this, and then there's times, at least I have found, where it feels like there's nothing at all. I mean, it's
Yeah.
just vacant. What's that been like for you over the years?
Well, the classic writer's block is what that's my biggest fear. And I'm also a writer. I was a journalist by profession for a number of years. And, writer's block is well known in that field. Um, I would say sometimes when I feel that like something is blocking me between me and the guitar. I think we discussed when I first hooked up with you that I was just staring at my guitar sitting there and I couldn't pick it up for like 3 weeks or 4 weeks.
Hmm.
I have to look at those times as part of the process and just sort of let my psyche and whatever, if I need to focus on something else for a little while, that's okay, because inside I feel I'm still generating ideas. And then when I go back to the guitar, sometimes it's like a fresh um insights come to me that wouldn't have been there before if I had kept trudging away at it.
Hmm.
So
Yeah.
I think it's kind of like that yin and yang. I mean, time away from the guitar sometimes is just as important to me as time working on the guitar.
Hmm.
You
Yeah,
know, I
I hear
might be,
that.
if I feel like I can't be creative on the guitar, I might start listening to a lot of music, or I might start just reading articles on other songwriters or musicians, and that way I'm gathering information so that when I do go back, it's kind of like a resurgence of creativity.
So it sounds like it's not just the songwriting itself, but it's the relationship with the guitar.
Yeah,
Kind
yeah,
of like
definitely.
when you're not with the guitar, rather than it's a bad thing, you're kind of saying it can be a good thing,
Yes,
and
yes,
it
it
and it
can.
can grow something that might become the muse for something else, because you just start to explore then.
Right.
Okay. I never thought. That's really good. See, most people think time away from the instrument is, oh, they beat themselves up over it. Oh, I haven't touched the instrument this week, or oh, it hasn't. And I do the same thing with my teacher. I'll go to a lesson, and sometimes that lesson is the time with the instrument, and sometimes we just end up chatting about whatever,
Yeah,
you
well,
know.
the thing that's kind of self-imposed me to slow down is I've been playing the guitar for so long. I have really bad tendonitis in my thumb, and
Hmm.
if I've been playing a lot of bar chords or something for a few days, it starts to really get sore. And I know
Yeah.
from experience I have to put the guitar down. There's no other way around it. I can massage my thumb and do all that kind of stuff, but I just really need to stay away from it for a few days. And I found that that time away is almost as important as the time that I spend playing.
Yeah. Yeah. That makes a lot of sense. And then when you return to the instrument, I suppose it could be any amount of time. I guess it doesn't matter. It could be a few days, a week, or a month, or whatever. Like,
Yeah.
it sounds like if you deal with it like you are, in a healthy way, then you have a decision to make before you separate from the instrument, and that's, am I going to feel terrible about this, or am I going to use this in some way to come to peace with it and just let it be okay inside me. So it sounds
Right.
like you're at peace with it. So.
Well, that's my goal. And
Yeah.
I don't always get there, but that's the way I'm trying to look at it.
So can you tell me about that thing you sent to me? I thought it was great. It was like bar people online or something, and it was a way to you were playing guitar on Facebook.
Yeah, it's they have an open mic, a virtual open mic on this Facebook group called Bar People, and they have a lot of uh, they like promote local music basically.
Hmm.
And so it's just like you get your slot, you sign up for a slot a couple days before the open mic, and then you get a 15-minute period to play a few songs, and it's was really a great experience. I want to do it again because you get that um, you get the experience of performance anxiety and having to play live, but you also get the comfort of being in your own home and the ability to watch the video afterwards and see where you think you could have made improvements or what was good, that kind of thing. So I
I
really
really enjoyed
enjoyed it.
it. I really enjoyed it. And the name of the first few songs in that, what were they again?
The first song was called Yahweh, which is Hebrew for God. And the second song I think I played was called Alive.
Yeah.
And
They're
then I
very
played,
catchy. I've just felt like, wish I were on a patio somewhere with a drink in my hand listening to you. Your rhythms were so great, like you drove the song with your right arm strumming.
well, thank
And
you.
so what inspires that songwriting? I guess, like, is it anything in particular? And when it comes to you, how does it come melody first or chords first or words in your head?
Yeah. Well, I can look back to like when we were talking about when I first picked up the guitar when I was about, 13. Um, Almost always chord progressions and melody come first for me. I might just play a chord progression and then hum a melody for a couple days until
Hmm.
that melody sort of finds a groove and develops into something.
Hmm.
And then much later in the process, I write the lyrics usually. Now I have reversed the process. Right now, I'm collaborating with a wonderful lyricist who lives out in Indiana, who I met via Facebook. And so, writing from that perspective, having the lyrics first is a completely different process for me. Equally interesting and creative, but a different process because that framework is already there, and then it's my job to find a home for the set for the lyrics and the song to make it, you know, to bring life into it, basically.
That's pretty cool. Yeah, that gives you a lot of artistic freedom in the process.
Yeah, I mean, occasionally I will like if I have a if I'm commissioned to write a song, I might write the lyrics first. Um, or if I'm have a really strong feeling for a topic that I'm writing about, I might write the lyrics first. But a lot of times, the music just kind of evolves, and then I decide what I want to write about.
I think, yeah, that makes a lot of sense to write about the things that you know. I think John Prine, who just passed away, said something about your music will always be good if you write, internally from the things that you actually know about, and you don't step too far outside. So I think we can probably assume that most songs come from a life experience of someone. And then
Definitely.
I
I
think
mean,
there,
I'm a lot of my music has sort of a spiritual undertone to it. I've found some spirituality in my life over the past 7 years or so. Um, so when I look at my music, I can see that. I've had some, pretty significant losses in my life, and I tend to write about that right now. So over the span of my life, I've written about many different things because life throws us many different experiences. And right now, I tend to sort of write about the same thing in blocks, and maybe 6 months from now, I'll write about something else.
Yeah. Yeah. It's like breaking your life into musical sagas
Yeah.
over time. And in terms of gigging,
Definitely. What I'm really trying to do right now is get my musicianship level up on all levels, in all areas. So gigging is definitely part of that. Recording is part of that. Songwriting is part of that. But because I'm stuck in here, I have the time, and if I can get organized enough, I can approach both those aspects. And I think, the DIY musician these days has to kind of hit all the areas. You have to be your own boss, you have to be your own publisher and everything, So, um, right now I'm trying to get, because I can write a bunch of songs, but if I can't play them up to level of being able to gig, then what's the point? Or I can't record because I haven't really mastered the song the way I want to. I can write songs that I can't play. So I have to learn how to play them. And that's what I'm doing right now, is trying to get my repertoire up so that when it's time to start gigging again, I have enough songs to, fill an hour or two.
yeah, it's tough to do that, especially if your songs are you're alone, so you're not taking extended instrumental breaks in your music, so you don't have a band to rely on,
Yep,
and you're relying on yourself for the rhythm, the vocals, any sort of a lead or melody you're going to do. It's tough. I mean, to think of 2 hours of that is just very intimidating, and
it is, and it's
yeah.
it's exhausting. It can be. I haven't done a whole lot of performing. I was always the guy in the basement writing songs, and I I I didn't finish a lot of the work that I was writing. So about 5 or 6 years ago, I decided, I'm not going to write a song and then go on to something else until I finish that song. And by doing that, I've been able to create a much larger repertoire.
See, what I'm learning from you is really, really cool. And hopefully, some folks watching this will learn. As I've played throughout the years, it's always been you got to learn songs for this gig, right? You're going to walk into this band situation. We got to learn songs for this gig. We got to, whether it's Southern rock, country, rock and roll, covers, 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 and sort of like the workaday way to do it, right? Like the working person's way to do it. It's like, well, I have to learn this stuff because I have a gig on date X.
Yeah,
That now you're offering me some insight. I'm kind of seeing that's kind of backwards in a way. Like, wait a minute. So you mean I got to sit down and learn 35 songs because I got a fill-in gig on date X? You're the other way. You're like, hey, it's okay to write music and never have it see the light of day. Like it's cathartic and it's
right, right. Well, I mean, I would say the guitar for me and songwriting above anything else is like my anti-anxiety pill. So I'm constantly going to the guitar for all sorts of emotional reasons. And out of that comes many different things. Um, but I have usually have a set gig in August, and I've done it a number of years. So, you know, starting in July or so, I'll get into that syndrome that you're talking about. Like, I got to get these songs up to par, you know. And I think that's natural, but there's so many aspects to being a musician these days.
And I guess my last question, two last questions. One is just who's in your CD player right now, or that's very old-fashioned of me to say. So who's on your streaming right now? Who are you listening to? Your top three or four, and then tell us a little bit about where people might be able to hear and see you in the next few months, even if it's digital.
Sure, yeah. Well, actually, in terms of music, I it's weird. Like, I do listen to a lot of music, but I don't listen to. Let's see, how can I put this? I listen for different reasons, and right now I'm listening to pick up ideas. And I've been listening to a lot of those Cafe Lena live sessions. Um, so I've watched like the Oshima Brothers and a lot of like really great bands that I can't think of the name of right now. It, I mostly listen to new music. Any new musicians, indie musicians that are coming out, I'll just go to Apple Music or I subscribe to a couple of music magazines. I'll check out some new names in there and go listen to their music and just explore, basically, is what I've been doing lately. In terms of influences, I heavily influenced by Cat Stevens and Lindsey Buckingham and Mark Knopfler, Jimi Hendrix. The list goes on.
That's
But
that.
I don't
Those are the
listen to them that
masters.
much. I mostly
Yeah.
listen to new music.
That's cool. Yeah, staying in touch with and Cafe Lena. The folks watching this might not know, Cafe Lena is this truly awesome, cutting edge yet really historic coffee house in Saratoga Springs, New York. It's a lot more than a coffee house. It's been a premier club for independent artists, up and coming folk, for like 40 or 50 years, if not longer. And
Yeah.
the quality of the music they have, whether it's a vocal choir or a band that has an upright bassist and a wash tub and a sort of a roots and
Hmm.
jug stomping thing, or whether it's I went up there and I saw Chris Smither, who's a really talented songwriter.
Yep.
Man, they've always got something. They're just like a shining star of the Northeast, honestly.
They do, and they also have an open mic on Monday nights. It's not running right now, but that is a great avenue for up and coming songwriters who want to get experience playing in an atmosphere where people actually listen, and you don't have to fight the bar crowd and everything, and it's a welcoming, very friendly atmosphere. So I'd highly
Yep.
recommend that for anyone who wants to start, playing out somewhere.
That sounds good. That's a good plan.
Yeah.
Get a few songs together and get up there, and you know what the first gig is like. I mean, your nerves, oh my gosh, you usually not everybody, but you know, your tempos are all over the place, your
Yeah.
nerves, you're dropping your pick, your hands are sweaty, it's
Yeah.
very few people don't have that happen. Very few are lucky enough to just not care, but yet
Right.
produce
Right.
something
Right.
good. So, where might we see a little bit of you or hear a little bit of you?
Well, the best place I think would be I have a Facebook page called Trace Ellis Music, and on there you'll find a bunch of my music. You can also look under SoundCloud. I have actually my music on SoundCloud is under a logo that I created, Butso, Butbutso, and I had been to music conference in Austin, Texas in August, and they kept talking about, you got to develop a brand, you got to brand yourself. So that's my brand, But So. And there is no other But So on the universe. If you Google that name, I come up.
That's pretty cool. Yeah,
Yeah.
that's unique. Excellent. I just thank you so much. I've learned so much from you in our exchanges, and to connect with a singer-songwriter, and we're going to keep this series going. I don't know how frequently,
Great.
maybe every couple of weeks I'll talk to another student or maybe somebody that I bump into, to just have them offer insight. I really, really appreciate what you offered today, and especially that you took time out of your life. Is I know it's, even though we're isolated, you're busy. We all have responsibilities. So
Well,
thank you.
thank you so much for this opportunity. Really, Andrew, I really enjoyed it.
Yeah, yeah, we'll do our best to get the word out there. Um, all right. Well, thank you, and I will keep you up to date on where this posts, and I'll put it in a little blog, the newsletter, and I'll make sure that you're on the email list there.
Great, great. Thanks again, Andrew.
You're welcome. We'll see you soon.
Yep, bye-bye.
All right, bye.
And it's all beginning to look like a mirage, concealing stolen dreams like a cop shop garage. I'm calling, I'm wanting. I swear I thought I'd leave my heart out, my heart out. Cause even the shadows, sometimes